Whether King Charles dies or abdicates, Prince William will one day take the throne, and things are going to change for Camilla.
What really happens to a queen when her king is gone? Queen Camilla's future remains one of the most quietly debated questions inside royal circles. Will she become Queen Dowager or step away from royal duties entirely? How will Prince William handle her presence when he becomes king? And what role, if any, will she continue to play in a monarchy moving toward modernization? Whether the king passes away or steps aside, Prince William will one day take the throne. But when that day arrives, what exactly happens to Queen Camilla? After decades of public scrutiny, royal hesitation, and shifting sentiment, her role has never been as clearly defined as her title might suggest. The woman once vilified by the British tabloids now holds the position of Queen Consort. But her future under a new monarch, especially one so deeply tied to the legacy of Princess Diana, is a matter of both royal tradition and personal discretion. So how did Camilla arrive at this turning point? And what could her future look like once William is king? To understand where Camilla might go next, it's essential to understand where she started. Her relationship with Charles began decades ago, long before either of them thought she might one day wear a crown. Their romance was interrupted by marriages to others, most notably Charles's highly publicized union with Diana, Princess of Wales. That relationship ended in a painful and public divorce, and Diana's tragic death in 1997 made Camilla a symbol of royal controversy. When Charles and Camilla finally married on April 9, 2005, it was clear that the palace was wary of public reaction. Instead of adopting the title Princess of Wales, technically her right, Camilla was styled as the Duchess of Cornwall. This move was widely interpreted as a gesture of respect to the memory of Diana, who had worn the title with international popularity. At the time, the palace also made it clear that should Charles become king, Camilla would be known not as queen, but as Princess Consort. This unusual title was chosen to acknowledge lingering public discomfort. However, in the years that followed, Camilla gradually built a reputation as a working royal, one who supported dozens of charities and maintained a relatively low media profile. Her work in literacy, domestic violence advocacy, and public health was consistent and largely apolitical, allowing her to slowly reshape her image in the eyes of the public. By the early 2020s, public sentiment toward Camilla had softened significantly, but it was a message from the highest authority that set her royal future in motion. On February 6, 2022, during her Platinum Jubilee year, Queen Elizabeth II issued a rare personal statement. In it, she wrote that it was her sincere wish that Camilla be known as Queen Consort when Charles ascended the throne. This marked a definitive turning point. The Queen's endorsement removed any remaining ambiguity about Camilla's future title and helped cement her position in the royal hierarchy. That endorsement became reality just 7 months later. On September 8, 2022, Queen Elizabeth II passed away at Balmoral Castle. With her death, Charles immediately became King Charles III, and Camilla, by his side, became Queen Consort. This moment was the culmination of nearly 2 decades of strategic public relations and quiet service. But while the title of Queen Consort may have settled one debate, it opened the door to another. What happens to a queen consort when the king either dies or abdicates? The answer lies not only in royal protocol, but also in historical precedent, and ultimately, in the personal decisions of the next sovereign. Traditionally, the wife of a deceased monarch becomes known as the Queen Dowager, a title that simply denotes the widow of a king. It's a term used respectfully, but rarely seen in modern times. One of the few historical examples is Queen Adelaide, the wife of King William IV, who died in 1837. Adelaide held the title of Queen Dowager until her own death in 1849. More recently, the mother of Queen Elizabeth II was given a unique title, Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother. This title served a practical purpose. There were 2 Queen Elizabeths alive at the time, and the distinction was necessary to avoid confusion. However, that title also reflected a key detail. She was the biological mother of the reigning monarch. This brings us to a critical point in Camilla's situation. She is not the mother of Prince William. She is his stepmother, having entered his life well after the death of Princess Diana. This means the Queen Mother title does not apply. Instead, should Charles pass away while on the throne, Camilla would most likely be referred to as the Queen Dowager. But even this is not guaranteed. In the British monarchy, titles like Queen Dowager are not automatic. They are often a matter of royal discretion. As the next king, Prince William would have the authority to decide how Camilla is addressed both publicly and within the royal household. While there is precedent to support the Queen Dowager title, there is no requirement for it to be used. This makes Camilla's future uniquely uncertain. It is also worth noting that William's relationship with Camilla has historically been described as distant. Though polite in public, the emotional closeness often associated with mother-son dynamics was never part of their bond. This too may influence the degree to which Camilla remains visible or involved after Charles's reign ends. Still, titles are only part of the story. The real question is how long Charles will remain on the throne and under what circumstances William will succeed him. The uncertainty around Queen Camilla's future role becomes more complicated when considering recent events surrounding King Charles's health. On February 5, 2024, Buckingham Palace made a rare and serious announcement. The king had been diagnosed with a form of cancer. Though the palace did not disclose the specific type, it confirmed that the diagnosis came after a procedure for a separate benign condition, and that treatment had already begun. This marked a shift not only in public concern for the monarch's well-being, but also in quiet discussions about succession planning. Historically, British monarchs rarely step down. The last instance of abdication was in 1936, when King Edward VIII relinquished the throne to Mary Wallis Simpson, triggering a constitutional crisis. Since then, abdication has become practically unthinkable in the context of British tradition. However, the announcement of Charles's illness in early 2024 led to a wave of media speculation, with some outlets suggesting that he might consider stepping aside to focus on his health and spend more time with Camilla. Those close to the royal household were quick to respond. Royal commentator Charles Ray told the Royal Observer that stepping down simply does not align with King Charles's personality or sense of duty. After waiting more than 70 years to ascend the throne, the longest wait in British royal history, it seems unlikely that he would voluntarily give up the position just 2 years into his reign. Ray pointed out that Charles has dedicated his entire life to preparing for the role and is not the kind of man who would retreat to private life without necessity. Still, others have speculated that while abdication may be institutionally improbable, health could eventually force a transfer of duties, if not titles. If Charles were to become too ill to carry out public functions or ceremonial responsibilities, Prince William would likely take on a more visible and proactive role as heir apparent. This shift in duties would mirror what happened during Queen Elizabeth II's later years, when Charles quietly assumed more public engagements and state responsibilities long before her passing. For Queen Camilla, this transitional period could prove complicated. If Charles's health deteriorates significantly, her status as Queen Consort would technically remain unchanged. However, the reality of royal life is more nuanced. As Prince William begins to step into a more commanding role, whether as regent, acting sovereign, or eventually as king, Camilla's public and ceremonial visibility may diminish accordingly. This also ties into a broader conversation about the role of the monarchy itself in the modern era. There has been a consistent effort by Prince William and Catherine, the Princess of Wales, to modernize and streamline royal responsibilities. This slimmed-down monarchy, as often described in British media, places emphasis on fewer working royals and a tighter circle of senior representatives. With Prince Harry and Meghan Markle stepping back from royal duties and Prince Andrew effectively removed from public roles, the burden on the remaining senior royals has increased. In that context, the monarchy may rely more, not less, on Camilla, especially in the short term. Royal historian Gareth Russell has commented that the transition to a reign under William would likely bring some structural changes. However, the Queen Consort's presence may still be necessary, particularly if William and Catherine's 3 children, George, Charlotte, and Louis, are not yet of age to assume any ceremonial roles. During that interim period, Camilla's experience, especially in diplomatic settings and public-facing events, could prove valuable. Still, this all depends on timing. If Charles continues his reign for another decade, Camilla may naturally phase out of high-profile appearances due to age or preference. But if William were to take the throne sooner, whether due to abdication or the king's passing, Camilla's future would be decided not by protocol, but by William himself. And this is where things get even more delicate. Though their public relationship appears courteous, reports from royal biographers suggest that William and Camilla have never shared a particularly close bond. In interviews and writings, author Christopher Anderson noted that William has always tolerated Camilla rather than embraced her as a mother figure. It's no secret that William remains deeply protective of his mother's memory, and the years of tabloid-driven controversy surrounding Camilla's relationship with Charles left lasting emotional scars. Camilla, for her part, has also reportedly felt uneasy around William. Royal sources have indicated that she viewed him with a certain amount of apprehension, especially in the early years of her marriage. Navigating the unique dynamic of being a stepmother to the future King of England, particularly when the memory of Diana loomed so large, was never going to be easy. Over time, that tension may have eased, but insiders suggest that a warm, personal closeness never truly developed. However, there are signs that the relationship has matured. In March 2024, Camilla and William attended several official events together while Charles was undergoing medical treatment. Observers noted that their body language appeared more relaxed than in previous years. Joint appearances showed subtle signs of mutual respect, such as walking in step, exchanging brief smiles, and working cooperatively in public duties. While such gestures may seem minor, they suggest an evolving working relationship, one that may lay the foundation for how responsibilities are shared or delegated in the future. If nothing else, these appearances point to a pragmatic understanding between them. As long as they are both active members of the royal family, Camilla and William will need to function together in public. Whether that collaboration extends into a formal role once William becomes king remains to be seen. There is no rule book for what a stepmother of a reigning monarch should or shouldn't do. That means the future of Camilla's role may depend far more on personalities and family dynamics than on palace protocol. What is certain, though, is that the monarchy continues to evolve. Camilla's journey from public outcast to Queen Consort is a testament to how drastically roles and reputations can change within the royal family. As William steps further into the spotlight, Camilla's future will be shaped not only by royal precedent, but by the personal decisions of the man who will one day wear the crown. While Camilla's position may change under King William, it is important not to overlook the legacy she has been building during her time as Queen Consort. Long before she officially gained that title, she had already carved out a consistent presence in public service, especially in areas that often go underrepresented in royal circles. Her future role might become less ceremonial, but her charitable contributions are likely to remain part of her public identity, regardless of who wears the crown. Camilla's focus has always been on causes that are personal and impactful. Since 2005, she has championed literacy and worked to raise awareness about domestic violence and sexual abuse. Her commitment has never appeared performative or short-lived. Instead, it has been grounded in long-term involvement and consistent advocacy. For many, this part of her work has helped redefine her public image from controversial figure to working royal with purpose. One of her most notable contributions has been in the field of literacy. In 2010, Camilla began supporting the National Literacy Trust, helping promote reading among both children and adults. Her interest in books eventually led to the creation of her own reading initiative. In 2021, she launched the Queen's Reading Room, originally called the Duchess of Cornwall's Reading Room, designed to make reading more accessible and enjoyable. The project began as a social media campaign during the pandemic and quickly grew in popularity. In 2023, It expanded into a formal charity and hosted its first literary festival, bringing together authors, educators, and the public for a celebration of storytelling. Her reading room project is more than just a list of book recommendations. It offers author interviews, curated selections, and features writers reading from their own work. It is a space that encourages literacy not just as a skill, but as a passion. The initiative stands out in the royal family's landscape of charitable work for its cultural focus and intellectual appeal. And given how closely it is associated with Camilla personally, it is reasonable to expect that she will continue to support the program even after her royal responsibilities are scaled back. Equally significant is her work in the area of domestic violence awareness. Since 2009, Camilla has been involved in supporting survivors of rape and abuse. In 2016, she expanded her efforts by partnering with Safe Lives, a UK-based charity that works to end domestic abuse. Her involvement has included visiting shelters, meeting with survivors, and participating in forums to hear directly from affected individuals and families. Unlike some royal patronages that are largely symbolic, Camilla's engagement in this space has been personal and persistent. In 2024, she took part in a documentary aimed at raising awareness around domestic violence, further cementing her long-standing commitment to the issue. In that appearance, she emphasized that while progress has been made, there is still much more to be done. She reaffirmed her determination to continue working with victims and organizations, saying, "I shall keep on trying till I'm able to know more." For many observers, this statement served as a clear indication that her advocacy work will outlast her formal role within the monarchy. It's also worth noting that Camilla's style of engagement is notably hands-on. She's not just attending events and giving speeches, she is often involved in behind-the-scenes discussions, helping shape program priorities, and encouraging collaboration among stakeholders. This level of commitment may well give her a continued platform, even if her ceremonial role as Queen Consort comes to an end. So how would this look once Prince William becomes king? While Camilla may no longer represent the monarchy at official state functions or accompany the king on foreign tours, there is no constitutional reason she would need to abandon her charitable work. In fact, her stepping back from royal protocol might allow her greater flexibility to focus on the causes she cares about most. Free from the rigid scheduling and ceremonial expectations of the crown, she could choose to operate more independently while still maintaining the dignity of her former role. There's also a practical consideration. With fewer senior working royals actively representing the monarchy, Camilla's expertise and network may still be useful, especially during major national events or diplomatic occasions. Even if she doesn't play a central role, her familiarity with court customs and public relations would be hard to replace overnight. For this reason, some analysts believe she may remain quietly involved in the background, offering support when needed, stepping in when appropriate, but no longer at the forefront of public attention. Another aspect of her evolving role is her presence within the royal household. The Queen Consort's office, as it currently exists, is staffed with advisors, communication aides, and scheduling teams. Whether that office remains intact after Charles's reign will likely depend on the structure Prince William chooses to implement. He may opt to merge certain departments, reduce staff, or refocus resources entirely. Regardless, Camilla's charitable foundations are likely to remain separate entities with their own teams, independent of any changes to the central royal structure. In the broader picture, Camilla's identity within the royal family may shift from public-facing figure to respected elder, a woman whose experience, while not born of royal blood, has nonetheless shaped the institution in quiet and enduring ways. And this evolution brings up another practical question. Where will she live once her formal role changes? At present, Camilla and Charles live primarily at Clarence House, a royal residence they've called home since before their marriage. While Buckingham Palace is traditionally the official residence of the British monarch, renovations have meant that Charles and Camilla have remained at Clarence House even after his accession. Construction on the palace is expected to continue until around the year 2027. Whether they would ever relocate there remains uncertain. Should Charles pass away before such a move, Camilla's residence would likely be subject to Prince William's discretion. He could offer her a continued place within royal property, perhaps at Clarence House, or another suitable residence. There has been speculation that she might be moved to Royal Lodge, currently occupied by Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson. However, these are matters of private decision, often influenced by both tradition and personal preference. Fortunately for Camilla, she already has another option. Since the mid-1990s, she has owned Ray Mill House, a private estate in Wiltshire. This property is not part of the royal portfolio and belongs solely to her. It's where she retreats when seeking privacy and time away from public life. Those close to her have described it as the only place where she can truly relax, where she can kick off her shoes, spend time with her children and grandchildren, and live without the constraints of royal formality. If her royal role becomes more limited under King William, Ray Mill House may once again become her primary residence. In many ways, it would symbolize the closing of one chapter and the quiet beginning of another, one that allows her to continue her causes, maintain family connections, and enjoy the normalcy that so often escapes those in royal circles. Ray Mill House may provide a peaceful retreat, but Camilla's future within the broader royal framework will depend on more than where she lives or which causes she continues to support. With Prince William expected to usher in a modernized monarchy, the question of what kind of role Camilla will hold, if any, becomes more complex. Housing, titles, duties, and public perception will all intersect under William's leadership, setting the tone for how his stepmother is positioned once his reign begins. There is no official royal blueprint for what happens to a queen consort when her husband, the king, passes away or abdicates. Unlike in some constitutional monarchies where roles and titles are more rigidly defined by law, the British royal system leaves much of this to tradition and the personal preferences of the reigning monarch. That means Prince William would have significant discretion over Camilla's post-Charles status. Historically, widowed queens have been referred to as queen dowagers. The term is respectful and denotes the previous queen who outlived her husband, the king. Queen Adelaide, the wife of King William IV, held the title of Queen Dowager after his death in 1837. But in the modern era, the use of such a title has become rare. When King George VI died in 1952, his widow, also named Elizabeth, was styled as Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother. That adjustment was made largely to avoid confusion between two living Queen Elizabeths. Camilla, however, is not the biological mother of Prince William, so she would not be called Queen Mother. That title is unique to Elizabeth, the mother of Queen Elizabeth II. The most likely title for Camilla would be Queen Dowager, though it would only be used if William decides to formalize it. If he chooses not to, she may simply be referred to as Queen Camilla, as is commonly done today, with public understanding that she is the widow of the previous king. Her title, however, may not be the most significant change. The larger shift may come in her visibility or lack of it. William is widely expected to maintain a tight, streamlined royal operation. His approach has already been noticeably different from that of his father. Where Charles values heritage and tradition, William tends to prioritize efficiency, modernity, and public connection. This difference in management style could reshape the entire royal structure in the years to come. In this context, Camilla's presence could either be maintained for continuity or gradually phased out to make way for a younger, more focused royal team. Much would depend on timing. If Charles were to pass away within the next few years, while William and Catherine are still in the thick of their royal responsibilities and their children are not yet of age, there may still be a need for Camilla to help support key public duties. Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis are all still in school. Even when they begin to take on public engagements, they will do so gradually, under supervision. Until then, the burden of royal duties will fall primarily on William and Catherine. In that scenario, Camilla's experience in managing engagements, representing the crown at events, and working with charitable organizations could still be considered valuable. However, if Charles's reign lasts another decade or more, Camilla would be in her 80s by the time William takes the throne. At that point, the need for her public involvement would likely be much reduced. Age, public expectations, and William's vision for a contemporary monarchy could all contribute to her gradual withdrawal from royal life. It would not be a dramatic exit, but rather a quiet step back, handled with the same subtlety that has defined much of her public service. What also remains uncertain is how the royal staff and household structure will be adjusted. The Queen Consort currently has her own office, advisors, and communications team. Upon Charles's death, those roles would be reassigned or eliminated, unless William finds a reason to retain them for Camilla's continued charitable work. It's possible that some of her staff may remain to manage her personal initiatives, such as the Queen's Reading Room or her partnerships with organizations like Safe Lives. However, these would likely operate outside of the core royal household, as privately funded entities rather than formal royal departments. Another consideration is Camilla's public image. While she has gained significant acceptance in recent years, the memory of Princess Diana continues to shape how some members of the public view her. William's ascension could renew media focus on this dynamic, especially in coverage comparing his mother's legacy to Camilla's current standing. If William takes steps to elevate Diana's memory through events, dedications, or charitable initiatives, it may unintentionally highlight the contrast between his mother and stepmother. While not likely to cause public hostility, this could naturally shift Camilla's role further into the background. Yet despite the complexities, it is also true that Camilla has found her own rhythm in royal life. She has never attempted to emulate Diana, nor has she sought center stage. Instead, she has focused on quieter forms of service, building a reputation for reliability rather than glamour. This has allowed her to succeed in a space where others might have struggled, especially considering the history she walked into. For that reason, William may ultimately choose to keep her close, not necessarily in a formal capacity, but as a respected presence within the family. Her experience, discretion, and long-standing relationships with key charitable and diplomatic figures could be useful behind the scenes, especially during transitions or sensitive moments. Camilla's role could also remain symbolic. Just as the Queen Mother remained an enduring figure in British public life until her death in 2002, Camilla may become a familiar presence at key events like Trooping the Color, Remembrance Sunday, or royal weddings, even if she no longer speaks on behalf of the Crown. Her presence could offer a link to Charles's legacy, especially in the early years of William's reign. What seems most likely is that Camilla's future will not be dictated by one specific title or role, but rather shaped by gradual evolution. Just as she moved from Duchess of Cornwall to Queen Consort over the course of nearly 2 decades, she may now enter another slow transformation, one guided not by public demand, but by family decisions, institutional needs, and her own preferences. Looking ahead, it becomes increasingly clear that Queen Camilla's legacy won't be defined solely by her title or how she is addressed once King Charles is no longer on the throne. Instead, it will be measured by the impact she has made over time, through steady commitment, personal resilience, and a style of public service that often avoided the spotlight. Her journey, shaped by both controversy and dedication, stands as a unique chapter in the story of the modern monarchy. In many ways, Camilla's path has reflected the evolving expectations placed on members of the royal family. She entered royal life at a time when public opinion was sharply divided. Her presence reopened old wounds for some, especially those who felt fiercely loyal to the memory of Princess Diana. For years, it seemed that the public would never fully accept her as a senior royal, let alone as a future Queen Consort. Yet over time, she reshaped that narrative, not through grand gestures or high-profile campaigns, but by showing up. Her public appearances were consistent, her charitable work became more visible, and she developed a rapport with both the public and the press that was rooted in steadiness rather than spectacle. She stayed out of royal scandals, kept her messaging clear, and never attempted to compete with the more popular members of the family. Instead, she found her lane and remained committed to it. When historians eventually write about this period in royal history, they will likely focus on the transitions that defined it: Queen Elizabeth II's long reign, King Charles III's brief but meaningful time on the throne, and the rise of King William. Within those larger arcs, Camilla's presence may appear more subtle, but no less significant. Her story is one of survival, adaptation, and quiet influence. From Duchess of Cornwall to Queen Consort, her titles have changed, but her style of service has remained remarkably consistent. Much of her legacy may be tied to the causes she championed. The Queen's Reading Room, now a formal charity, continues to promote literacy and engagement with literature. The annual literary festival she helped launch in 2023 offers a lasting platform for authors and readers alike. Meanwhile, her advocacy for victims of domestic violence has brought attention to a deeply underrepresented issue in royal outreach. These initiatives are likely to continue long after she steps back from royal life, supported by the networks she helped build and the organizations she empowered. It's also worth noting that Camilla's position allowed her to modernize the role of Queen Consort in ways that went largely unnoticed. She was the first to openly speak about previously taboo topics such as sexual violence in the context of royal work. She also brought a more relatable tone to her engagements, often speaking without notes, sharing personal observations, and showing a comfort in informal settings. These details may seem minor, but they reflect a shift in how royal women engage with the public. Still, her legacy will be shaped not only by what she did, but by what she chose not to do. She never tried to erase or rewrite the past. She acknowledged the discomfort that some people felt about her presence, and allowed time, rather than public relations, to do the work. She did not overreach, and in doing so, avoided the kind of backlash that can arise when royals are seen as trying to force acceptance. This restraint allowed her to move forward without denying where she had come from, and for many, that honesty became a quiet strength. In the years to come, Camilla may find her presence reduced in the official sense, but expanded in personal and symbolic ways. She may continue to appear at royal family events, especially those that honor Charles's legacy. Whether it's attending memorial services, participating in charitable milestones, or simply being seen in moments of family celebration, her ongoing visibility would serve as a reminder of her long-standing contribution. With that, we have reached the end of today's video. If you have come this far with us, be sure to check out other videos on the channel.